We have a serious internal problem here. And so that's why I tongue-in-cheek tweeted that I'd rather have a can of tuna right now than a silver coin, just to get ridiculous, because I can eat tuna. I cannot eat that silver coin. I can spend it. Always remember, America has stopped producing products. We produce bubbles. Now, the good thing about a bubble is when they burst, everything goes on sale. And so in 2008, I waited till about 2010. I borrowed $300 million because debt is money, as you know, after 71. And I began buying real estate at bargain prices. So just recently, the repo market inverted again, which means we're going down. It means recession's ahead. But my concern is now revolution, because when people can't afford to eat tuna, we're going to have rioting. So it's a whole different type of bubble burst. When Biden took us off the pipeline, oil prices went up. Oil produces fertilizer. And when fertilizer is no longer cheap, people can't produce food. And the average American has nothing. 40% of Americans have nothing. Inflation is going to make them very upset. A stock market crash will bring down the baby boomers. So I'm just being ridiculous in my tweets because it's better than listening to Biden, that I'd rather have a can of tuna right now. That's what I'm saying, is that at least I can eat it. I'm a U.S. Marine. I fought in Vietnam twice as a pilot. I've seen what happens when the communists, people can see it in Ukraine, communists always kill civilians. And that's what people don't realize. And as a Marine, they sent kids and women after us. So a lot of my friends who came back with PTSD, and you can see it in the Ukraine today, Russia's not hitting military targets, they're hitting civilian targets. And when you understand communism, I am a student of communism. They don't know what Marx said, but what Marx said, they had to have the poor get poor and the middle class come down. And that was a recipe for revolution. And I see Biden doing it. When he took the Keystone XL pipeline and took us off of it, and oil prices went up. Now the thing is, I got richer because I produce oil. I don't invest in Shell or Exxon and all that. I invest in oil wells. So when oil went from $30 a barrel to $130 a barrel, I got richer, but I also got more concerned for my fellow human beings. They can't afford to live at $130 a barrel oil. And so that's why in my tweets, I just get ridiculous about it. Hopefully somebody will listen. I'm doing my best to explain to people. I'm a U.S. Marine. I went to the academies. When you see the Russians hitting civilian targets, it doesn't register in most people's minds because Americans haven't seen war. If you understand that communists killed their own people, Mao killed his own people, Stalin killed their own people, Americans try and stop that from happening. And then our own press, I came back from Vietnam in 73, I got spit on, hit by eggs, called the baby killer. And I'm still a little bit bitter about that, but it prepared me for today. We have communists inside the wire. They're inside our government, they're inside our school systems, they're inside Hollywood, and they're inside Silicon Valley. And that's why I wrote this book here, The Capitalist Manifesto. I said, we've got to fight back. And we fight back with information and education, not weapons. But I am concerned about my fellow human being. I don't care what you are, white, left, green, pink. I am concerned because 50% of Americans are broke. Inflation is going to wipe us out. I simply don't trust my government, especially this character Biden, and I don't trust the Fed, I don't trust the banks, and I don't trust Wall Street. So it's pretty simple philosophy. In other words, what I say, if you can print it, I don't want it. So if you can print the dollar, I don't want it. You can print a stock, I don't want it. I want something I can see, touch, and feel what's real, find out what's real. So as you know, I've been a gold bug since about 1971 when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. And I'm becoming more fanatical, not less. I literally have tons of gold and silver, tons, because I own gold mines. I graduated from school in New York in 1969, and I had a high-paying job. I'm an oil guy, so I sailed for Standard Oil under oil tankers. So my background is oil. But I still joined the U.S. Marine Corps in 1969 to go fight in Vietnam. And Marines don't fight for Democrats or Republicans, liberals or conservatives. Marines fight for our freedoms. And so when I saw our freedoms being taken away, especially after the 2020 election, like, Donald Trump's a personal friend of mine, written 2 books together. But when they took our freedoms away, I'm just concerned about our country and the world, especially this guy Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. And what the hell are they doing? Why aren't we fighting back? So that's why I said I had more to lose than to gain by writing the book. In 1965, I go to school, military school in New York. I had nominations to Naval Academy, West Point, and Kings Point. I took Kings Point. But my economics teacher, rather than have us read Keynes, Malthus, Ricardo, and Adam Smith, he had us read Marx, Stalin, Lenin, Mao, and Hitler. And so I realized, I hate to say this, but most academics are Marxists. And my poor dad was a Marxist. The abolition of private property, a heavier progressive income tax is essential for the proper development of communism. And Biden just appointed 87,000 new IRS agents to go after small business owners. So we're becoming a fascist totalitarian state. And most people think, well, paying taxes you're supposed to do it. If you look at history, the facts are America was founded as a tax revolt. 1773, I believe, Boston Tea Party. It was a tax revolt. We're not a slave nation, And that's why I fight now. And that's why I said I better say something, because I went to military school. I fought in Vietnam twice, and I fight for freedom, and they're taking our freedoms away. Again, it goes back to this book here. Marx said, this is 1848. It's only about 50 pages, but it's a great read. He said communism would come in 2 phases. And the first phase was 1930. So this was 1848. He said communism would come in 2 phases. So 1930, the Berlin school sent teachers to Columbia University to teach the Columbia University Teachers Program. And that's when communism entered America as socialism. I was in school in New York in the 60s, and that's when the first rioting broke out at Columbia University, which spread across the country. And then the second phase happened, in my opinion, in 2020, when social media shut down the President of the United States. And that's the loss of our freedom of speech there. And COVID, which was Klaus Schwab, how can they censor doctors? How can you get fired for speaking out against COVID? I just don't understand our loss of freedoms, and we say nothing about it. My point of view is communism entered America via our school system. The BRICS nations are Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And he talks about how the Belt and Road Project now is going to affect 90% of the world's population, and they'll all be on the CBDC yuan. They'll be going into Chinese crypto, not American. So the US dollar, according to this guy Andy Schekman, is toast. And that's why it's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. They're going to take over the world with their own gold standard. I'm a gold miner and a silver miner, and I own physical gold and silver. I own no ETFs. My rule of thumb, as you know, what am I investing in today? Gold, silver, oil. I own the oil in the ground. I own Japanese breeding bulls, Wagyu cattle. And so I don't sell the cattle, I sell the semen. It's called semen flow. It goes back to that story I tell. I'm a Marine pilot flying off a carrier off the South China Sea, and I find out Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. I said, what does that mean? So I flew behind enemy lines because the NVA had overrun the mine, proving Marines aren't the brightest guys on earth. And I try and buy gold at a discount. So I knew it was 35 an ounce. And the day I went looking for gold, it was $50 an ounce. And I was trying to get the little Vietnamese woman with the red teeth. I still remember her. I was trying to get a discount. I want a discount. She goes, spot. I said, discount. She goes, spot. I said, what the hell is she talking about? She was two of my best teachers on gold I ever met. I say the same thing. A couple of questions. What does school teach you about money? Nothing. Put yourself on the gold standard. Don't wait for the federal government to go back on the gold standard. Start buying some gold and silver coins and keep it in a safe and don't tell anybody you have it. But put yourself on your own gold and silver standard. I started small, and now I literally own tons of gold and silver, but I went into the mining industry. Real estate is different because it's regional, and so I was just in Miami and it's booming. And you got other states, they're dying. And crime, what I'm concerned about is crime is going through the roof. I live in a very affluent neighborhood, and the guards at the shopping center, they're getting tased now. So these kids are coming up, tasing the guards and stealing stuff. That's what happens when you defund the police and you say, don't punish people. My poor dad was a PhD, which stands for poor, helpless, and desperate. And they believe that their credentials, they believe a higher degree, like a master's or a doctorate's, will save them from the world. So their values are different. Whereas you and I and other people say, well, let's learn about money. Let's learn about finance. But in the academics world, is I have a PhD and I'm smarter than you. That's a set of different value systems. The reason I joined the Marine Corps and not the Coast Guard, I could have flown for the Coast Guard or flown for the Marine Corps. If I'm going to go to war, I want to go with guys who want to kill. I don't want to go to war with a Coast Guard guy who wants to save lives. I want to make sure our values are lined up. So that's kind of the same as in marriage. Marriage is a tough game also. But if your values are lined up, you have a better chance. So values are core to the individual.